Hello, this is Ecom, and I thought I would just give a quick update on the Chiliad project and their upcoming program and an interpretation of what that actually means as an end result. So I would quickly show a slide here from the recent AGM meeting, and you can see on the slide they have the inferred material up top, and this is CH6 that we're talking about specifically. They have the tonnage for further exploration in the middle, and then they have this target on the bottom as well. The tonnage for further exploration is in the middle here, and they know that there's kimberlite there. They just don't know exactly where the boundaries are. So that's really more of an accuracy thing as to why they can't call it inferred right now, because they can't get that precise for the inferred category. So that's going to be the target for that. And then they're just inferring, inferring is a bad word because we used it up there, extrapolating the pipe to the lower levels, assuming it doesn't pinch in. And the walls are pretty vertical, so in theory the trend should stay like that, but that's exactly what this drill program is for. And these are all the proposed drill holes from the program. As you can see, they're targeting down to 500 meters and actually just below that. So that should not only be able to convert the TFFE to inferred, but also the lower material, they want to get that into the inferred category as well. They don't want to just upgrade that to TFFE for down the road. They want to get all this material into inferred category, so when they do the updated PEA, preliminary economic assessment, then you can have that extra rock value in your numbers. So you can see up top they're going to use they need geotechnical holes, and that's basically to look at steepening the pit angles they would use for the pit walls, and then that would save it's just over $4 per ton to move a material of waste. So the steeper the walls, the less waste you have to move, and that would save money on your operating costs. And that is basically what the geotech, but you're going deeper so you can define the kimberlite at lower levels. And they're actually going to employ something called directional drilling, which is you do a master hole or a parent hole, and then you start wedging off of it to find those intersections, those kimberlite intersections. So this is theoretically, instead of doing 3 or 4 holes, you got to do 1 hole and then 2 or 3 shallower holes off that. Now this is 2 different angles to looking at CH6. One is looking east and one is looking northwest. So you got to realize that these directional drilling holes, these are not the same. So this one on the right diagram is actually connected to this one here that goes steep there. And then this one over here is going to be behind or around this one. So that looks like they're going to have two from coming from 2 different angles, a bunch of directional drilling, plus they're going to have the regular drilling through to the bottom of the body as well. So that's why they're doing the geotech, expanding the resource, basically because the value of the rock in CH6 is such that the more you can add to the mine plan, the better the economics. So I'll get to that right now. How do we decide, well, what does it mean to the economics? Are we just going to guess, or do we want to wait until Peregrine comes out with the results, or is there something that we can just do to have a look at it? And that's exactly what I'm going to show. Is basically, this is your PEA up top, the original PEA results. You got 3 pre-production years and then 10 years of mining. And if you look at each line, you have your revenues. And as you can see, CH6 hits 350 plus million for the first 5 or 6 years, and then when CH7 comes in, it drops off. And that's because the rock value at CH7 is not as good as CH6. You got your CapEx, which is heavy in the early years, and then not too much throughout the rest of the project. Your OpEx, pretty steady at the beginning, $80, $75. That's not dollars, that's millions of dollars. So it's a cumulative thing per year. And then it drifts down a little bit less because you're using a lower strip ratio at CH7. they're not going as deep, so they're actually not mining as much waste. Cash flow is the big one, where you just subtract that revenue minus your OPEX to get your cash flow. So you'll see it gets close to over 300 million cash flow profit, and then it drops as you hit CH7. So it's really easy to say, okay, well, what is this drilling supposed to do? It's supposed to add more tonnage to the plant. If we assume the PEA, the mill size, everything is standard, we're just going to add higher grade value to the plan. Well, all you have to do is extend the CH6 results into the later years, because that's basically what it's going to do. It's going to double your tonnage, and you're going to get very similar cash flows. So you can just look at that, and then you can calculate your NPV and IRR, internal rate of return. So that's all I've done here, is I've made some changes in this potential updated PEA results. I've reduced the OPEX for the first 5 years of production as a result of the geotechnical drilling, getting away from that ultra conservative pit angles and maybe steepening it up. And also maybe the pit doesn't even go as deep if you're going to bring in an underground component. So again, you're using a little bit less waste. So I just reduced this from 78, 79 to just a flat $70 million a year for OPEX. And now, in the later years, you're going to inject that with the CH6 underground. So I've just picked a revenue that's relatively close to the first 5 years, and that's going to be, and I just picked 350 million. The rock value that you send through the mill, whether it's in the top half of CH6 or the bottom half, should be relatively the same. They're going to find that out with all the micro diamond drilling, but they already have some results for the TFFE, so they have a good idea of what the distribution of diamonds is going to be. It's deeper to that, they'll need to validate that. As far as CapEx, there will be some sustaining CapEx to bring in the underground portion. If they start the portal at the bottom of the pit, there's only going to be about 1,000 meters plus of ramp development, and that's going to cost roughly about $10 million. If they decide to do a portal at the surface, which makes sense if you're going to mine the string of pearls, but the string of pearls from an economic point of view at this point do not add any value to the project, so you're not going to do that for this PEA. So you're going to just do it right off the bottom of the pit, 1,000 meters, 10 million. You're going to buy equipment, you have to do raising, you're going to have to do some level development, so 50 million is probably more than conservative. But again, that's going to get worked out at the end of the year when they actually do the study. And then the operating costs for underground mine is going to be roughly $30 more per ton, but the strip ratio of the open pit is quite high, so you're not going to get, you're definitely going to get more cost on the underground portion. So I just bumped it up to 85 million and just left it that for the rest of the year. So that's basically looking at that, and then all of a sudden you crunch the numbers. This is still using the February 2015 price book, so they can remodel the pricing and see if the diamond prices go up or down. But if we're just comparing apples to apples with the price model, you'll see that just adding the CH6 underground, you're going to increase the pre-tax NPV before tax from about 700 million to about 1.14 million. And this is just simple math. You're just extending that. Boom, it's easy. Anybody can do this. So if you go and ask management, oh, what is the results of the internal study, they're not going to tell you, but it's pretty much just extend that out, do the math, see what you get. So you see the pre-tax IRR actually goes up a bit as well. It's pretty positive cash flow at the beginning. So yeah, it's gonna make a little bit of a difference to the internal rate of return, but you're already top heavy anyway. So that's why you're not seeing a huge increase in that. It's more of the NPV, because you're replacing the CH7 material with the CH6 underground material, which has a much higher margin. So with the CH7 material that you see up here, you could extend that into years 11, 12, 13, 14, and that's probably exactly what they're going to do with this study that they're going to do. But I thought, well, why don't we look at what a phase 2 development is where they bring in potentially, you know, a second mill, maybe located closer to CH7 and then CH31 and 33 and 44 and 45 and 46. You have that all those opportunities there. And let's just throw that tonnage from CH7 into that phase 2 Chiliac. So I thought I would just start this halfway into the phase 1 Chiliac, and then just throw in the numbers that we saw in the PEA down here for CH7 just to see what we got. For CapEx, you know, a lot of the CapEx from phase 1 is already spent. The all-weather road, the mill's there, but you have to account for another mill. Open pit equipment is already going to be used, and that's not going to be needed when the underground comes in. So you can move all that open pit equipment that's already been spent and capitalized over to phase 2 to work on CH7 as well. So right now I just ran the same numbers as the PEA original, and just you'll see the revenue and the OPEX and the cash flow. Now this is CH7 with all they had some broken diamonds and there's volume missing. So this is really conservative as well. Chances are these numbers are going to go up once they can do a more bulk sampling on CH7 and get a more firm model on the valuation with a little less breakage, or at least get some empirical data so they can start mapping the breakage to, well, what is that going to work out into actual versus, you know, just the breakage volume. Because right now they just have ranges, big ranges, and you can't really apply economics to those. So for this I applied just $100 million capex for the second mill. You know, you should have a lot of equipment and construction stuff on site. So just for this exercise, I thought I would just do that, and then I would discount that all the way to pre-production 3. So say we're looking at the same year, we're discounting all that, and we get $65 million MPV. And this is just adding CH7 existing tonnage on a shallow pit to a potential phase 2 concept with a secondary mill. Now if we go back and just discount it to the start of that project, you get about 100 million. So like I said, in reality, for this PEA coming up, they're going to just extend the life of mine. So the reality is, well, let's look at this 101 million, 65 million. You're not going to use this 100 million when you extend the life of mine because you're just using that same mill. So you're going to easily see at least another 60 million here as a pre-tax NPV. So you're looking at status quo, which CH6 open pit, CH6 underground, and then CH7 open pit. You're looking at least $1.2 million in pre-tax NPV at a discount of 7.5%. So that obviously the discount can be reduced as we get closer and do more bulk samples and understand what that is. But just comparing that, so if we're going from 700 million to 1.2 million, and then you'll get an after tax. Before the PEA, it was roughly a $500 million after tax NPV. So with this, you're going to be pushing, you know, between 900 to possibly, you know, $1 billion NPV after tax, depending on these numbers. And also more importantly is the remodeling of the valuation of the CH6 diamonds, and they're also probably at that point have to revalue the CH7 diamonds as well to throw into the new study. So that pretty much sums it up. It's, you know, it's not a lot of work to just run this through a spreadsheet. You know, extend the cash flow. We're not pumping up the mill here. We're just extending it, and then we're just looking at, you know, for the first time probably is a potential phase 2 concept and what that means, and then you can add the other kimberlites. But obviously for this updated PEA, there will be no phase 2. This will all be done as a life of mine extender. So the end result is you're looking at about $1.2 billion pre-tax NPV at 7.5%, with probably a 15 plus year mine life. And that's not to say that the underground at CH6 won't even go below 500 meters. So it'll be open up at that point. But again, it all boils down to this drilling and how successful it is. And the reality is they're going to start this drilling in June once the slushy season stops and they can get some good ground to drill on. And they'll be drilling for 2 or 3 months, and they may bring in a second drill. And once they start drilling, they're going to know the intersections right away. They can release this drill hole hit this amount of meters of kimberlite. They're going to know pretty quickly in that June, July time frame how well the body is holding at depth, and if it's doing what they're expecting, or if it's doing what they don't expect, or if it's pinching. We should get that earlier on, and then they'll be sending the stuff away for caustic results. They can do the geotech analysis while they're drilling with the core logging. It's just geotech core logging, and then throwing that into a geotechnical model. But yeah, the kimberlites, they can be sent. Some samples will be sent off-site just to confirm the distribution of the microdiamonds, to make sure it still matches the coarse diamond distribution from the bulk sample results. And if it does, they can throw these numbers into the PEA study for update later in the fall, early January, February release. And then depending on how the market and financing and all that stuff, if you get a $1.2 billion MPV, does that make it easier to do a financing for a winter bulk sample come March, April of 2018? Or is it going to be just as tough? Or is the market going to be tough? These are all things that we don't know. What we do know is that they're going to be drilling this summer. They're going to be drilling to depth, and we have a relatively good idea of what we're looking for numbers, and we're relatively good idea what we're targeting for NPV. So that pretty much sums it up, and we'll see. We'll probably wait. It's not going to be that much longer before June and July. This project's gone on quite long, and there's been large gaps, but a few months doesn't seem like a long time, so we'll just wait and see what happens. Have a good day, everyone.